in the middle. Cool, so today we're going to talk about smashing some technical debt for fun and profit. I'm not sure about the fun part, because it's never fun. But learning is fun, so I think that smashing technical debt for learning and profit is a pretty cool thing. So, hi everyone, my name is Ilija. I'm a backend developer here, and I've been in Katowice for 2.5 years now, just like Svetlana. For like the last 7 months approximately, I've been leading the shipping team, which was basically one of the most important parts or pieces of the puzzle that actually made this story possible, made this story a success. So today we're going to talk about a successful story with some trips on the way that we had. But it was basically all these people here that actually made it possible. That's my team, and they're all awesome people. They're gonna kill me because it's all their LinkedIn photos now. Cool. So, has anybody ever heard about this term? Cargo cult? Everybody? Almost everybody? Not everybody? Cool. So the idea is that, so in World War II, the US got dragged into it by Pearl Harbor attack, right, 1941, and then that's officially when they entered the World War II. And so what they did is, because obviously the Japanese were on the other side, and they had to take their super strategic position across the Pacific Ocean, because like they saw what happened in Pearl Harbor. So what they did is they started going throughout the Pacific, the military and the Navy actually, and they started putting bases all in these like very small islands in the Pacific. So what happened was, and what's pretty interesting is, the people actually there were people that lived there, right? So there's like people that have never actually seen a white man. They've never ever seen a plane. They've never ever seen a ship. And actually, in one day, these people appeared, these machines appeared, and actually met the white man. They met, it was actually, I read somewhere about it, it was actually, somebody said that it was called the John Flom. They heard John Flom, which was actually probably when they met with the soldiers that arrived on the island. It was probably, they said like, I'm John from somewhere, but they understood John Flom, because that's as far as they could understand English. So what was interesting then is, so when they started like building these bases, and there were like ingenious people on the island, and they started to mingle, they started to learn, get some stuff get some cargo, get some food, get some tools from the army, get some clothes, right? They started to interface with them, right? They started to work with them. And they were actually like, before they had to hunt their own food, now they got food, because the military has like shit ton of food with them, right? They're like gods to them. They have all the food. They have magic weapons that kill people with like a single pull of the trigger of like this something that we know is a gun. And so basically, for some time they probably thought they were like gods, these white people that suddenly appeared on these islands. And then the interesting part is that they, after like 1942, they surrendered. The Nazis, the Japanese surrendered. The Axis surrendered. And there was no point in staying there anymore, because they're like super tiny islands. You want to be there when it's like only wartime, not like, why would you build like this huge base if you have Hawaii anywhere, right? So the thing is, they went away. So a couple of years later, there was like, the whole army went back to the US, the Navy went back to the US. There were some people that were flying, like pilots, army pilots, I think they were flying over these once military bases, islands. And they actually saw something interesting. So what happened was, they saw that the people actually started building planes from sticks, and tanks from sticks, and ships and stuff like that. Something that really resembles an actual plane, and they were like, "What is going on?" So they actually went like when they came back by foot by boat, and what they saw was that these people were starving. These people, everything, all the clothes that were given by the Navy were like very old. Like this is like years later, right? And but they still saw like these planes made out of sticks. And they were like, so the US, the military that visited again, they were trying to find out like what's going on, why is this the case? What happened was the indigenous people on the islands were trying to mimic the situation that was happening on the island while they were getting food from the sky, while they were getting cargo, while they were getting clothes, while they had the gods on the island. But it never came because it was a Navy, it wasn't like gods. They never showed up, right? And this is what they saw. Like they saw actual planes, and I don't know if you can see there, but they're actually painted like the USA on their chests because that's how the uniforms or the t-shirts that they wore look like the military. And that leads me to one of the first things I want you to learn is that if it worked in one context, what I'm going to say tonight, it doesn't mean it's going to work for you. Because technical debt is super coupled to what you're building, to what kind of product you have, to what kind of history the company has, to what kind of developers the company had before, who was building it. Was it an in-house team? Was it an outside team? Was it, like Ilija said, consultants that just plainly didn't give a damn about the code, right? They just didn't give a damn. Like, why? They're gonna charge and be done with it, right? They're gonna, like 6 months later, they're out. So this is the first thing I want you to remember, that something that worked for us doesn't mean it's going to work directly for you, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you shouldn't know it, or that you shouldn't be aware of how somebody approaches technical debt while they keep on building product. This should be easy by now. I mean, it was Blackboard. Like, okay, so what's Katawiki? Anybody? Anybody?
Golden Lego. Something with golden Lego. Yes. I win.
Yes.
So?
Yes. Do you want the golden Lego?
Yeah.
Or do you want maybe the whiskey promotion? The Katawiki is a marketplace. Katawiki is an auction house. It's the same. It's a marketplace. We have people that supply. People that supply the items that we sell. They're called sellers. And we have people that buy these items via an auction model. That's why it's an auction platform. And those people are called buyers. I should have brought water from downstairs. I just realized it. And
you don't get one. His team member.
They have my back, I told you. And then we have the experts that actually screen these items that come to the supply and that actually curate the items into auctions. Now, I really hate that I cannot see my next slide coming. Yeah, okay, thought so. So when we have the sellers and the buyers, we're not going to worry about how the experts look like, what their flow looks like. But basically, we have a seller flow. This is like super high level, right? This is like submit an item. Thank you, sir. We have they come in, they submit an item for auction for screening. The expert screens it, approves it. It goes into auction. It's being sold. Somebody buys it. They ship the item and they receive some feedback. And after that, stuff can happen. And when it comes to buyer flow, they also they come in, define an item, so I missed that part on purpose because I wanted this to work in because I'm doing the presentation, right? And they come in, they bid, they win it, they pay for it, they receive the item because somebody shipped the item to them and they put in some feedback. So I wanted to ask, what is the single most important aspect of a marketplace? Anybody?
Looking at pictures?
Yeah, could be. a way, yeah, sure.
Payment.
Super important, obviously, it's money, right? So,
Number of
one,
search.
it's trust. It's, trust is super important for marketplaces, and trust is basically the belief in the reliability of something. This is from Wikipedia or Google, whatever. But it's basically that. It's the belief into the reliability and the ability, the truth of something or somebody or some entity, right? Now, as trust is paramount for marketplaces, in our context, for Katowice's context, is we have three kinds of trusts. Is trust in the marketplace. So basically somebody comes in and wants to put their money right into our product. That's how we earn our salaries here, right? So and they're gonna always ask, right, who are these Katowice people? Like, why should I leave them my money, right? Why shouldn't I go to like, I don't know, eBay and get the money there, right? I mean, sorry, or get an item there or something like that. Where's the trust? I'm gonna like spend, okay, I'm gonna see like an Omega watch, it's gonna cost 3,000 euros, like why? Katowice, why not go somewhere else? Right. The second piece of the puzzle is the trust in experts, right? Like who is this person that really says like that this Omega is not a fake one, right? I mean, I'm gonna spend money for like this watch, it's like super important, right? And even if, okay, like, sure, okay, let's say I trust them, like, what are their credentials, like, what actually makes them expert, of like the subject domain expert? Subject matter expert, sorry. And the third part is, it's trust in sellers, like, okay, is this person reliable, right? I'm gonna pay, and Katowice is not gonna make a mistake, and everything is gonna be fine, and all of these things, and then it's the seller, are they gonna ship my item? How are you gonna ship my item? Are they gonna, is it gonna come broken in 3 pieces? I don't want my Omega like that I've worked hard for being broken in the package when it arrives. I want them to be shipped super reliably with like bubble wrap and all these things, right? So today we're gonna focus only on the last part, on the trust in the sellers, and it's gonna be about buyer feedback and scoring. And so, right? Oh, actually, this is the Omega. Nice. I don't know. Okay, you can't see. So this is like this is our lot. We call it a lot detail page. So you come to you see items on auction. If you want to place a bid, you can't really see it here, but it says place a bid. Here is the button. The problem is that I need to be extra bidder guarantee because this thing is probably like thousands of euros. But the idea is that there is a place bid button and you can put a number. I want to like bid this much, click it and place your bid, right? But again, right? Same things. I'm here in Katowice, I'm already from this item. So the first component of the trust part is I'm already here. Okay, you convinced me. I read some online reviews, this and that. It's fine, cool. Who are these people that are actually the experts that actually screen this item, right? They're there. Okay, that component is there. Okay, so who is the seller, right? So we have somebody like probably a company from Spain. They have something pro and top, something next to them probably good words, pro and top, probably nice. Below them 98.5 something. Okay, it's probably out of 100. I can figure as much. There's a green thumbs up next to them. Pretty cool. 560 reviews. Okay, sounds pretty reasonable. I mean, sounds pretty safe to me, right? So it's like it's super small, like this kind of like cues that we communicate this, that we want to gain this trust from these people, that we tell them, hey, put your money in. And then, okay, I want to like go and see seller's reviews list. So if you click on the reviews here, you're going to be taken to this page, right? And the page says, okay, there's like the name, there's the pro and the top thing, right? And there's all sorts of stuff. And actually, the first thing is super important. So what we do is we have pro sellers and top sellers. Top seller is somebody that has like a super high feedback score. It's over, I'm not sure right now what exactly it was, 95, whatever. And there's like the pro part, that means that they actually make a living out of it. There's like a company behind it and this and that. So that actually speaks trust. Says, oh, okay, these people make a living out of this. They're not gonna like, it's just like, you know, fuck around. The second part is the feedback score. It's super high. It's out of 100. So like it speaks trust to you, right? Next one is, okay, so how was this feedback score computed, right? And there's probably some formula, but you can see that since 2014, these people or person, whatever, have had only 2 negative reviews. And the last part is the actual content. This is what buyers say. So you can imagine how important this piece of the puzzle is for the sellers, right? And for us as a company, but also for the sellers. These are their credentials. There's no fine lady with a nice dress and with like very nicely spoken, softly spoken across the counter from you. This is it. There's no gentleman with the tux and all the stuff and a nice watch and that is gonna like sway you into buying this thing, right? It's this that's gonna sway you into buying this thing, and you really, to be able to slash any sort of technical debt in a product company while you're building a product, because let's face it, you're never ever going to have, oh, here's like 2 months go slash technical debt. It's never gonna happen, right? You have to keep on building a product while you actually kill technical debt, or vice versa, keep on killing technical debt while you build product. You really, as developers, you really have to understand these things. You have to be able, for the company that you work with, that you work at, and the product that you work on, you have to be able to explain what you're building. You have to be able, like, does anybody in this room doesn't understand how we build trust now? Anybody? How we build trust?
How Katawiki builds trust.
How Katawiki builds trust? Do you not understand? Anybody that doesn't understand how Katawiki builds trust?
Yeah, I still have a question. You have a user, something numbers as a username, so on the slide, and this is kind of a red flag for me.
This is probably staging, I guess.
Doesn't matter. Good one. Sure. But is it going to be a problem? Is it going to sway you back? But what if you see 100 of these down? If I skip on
Yeah,
scrolling?
just generate them.
Sure. Okay. Fair enough. Sure. There might be out of I'm going to take my chances. Out of 25 to 1. Good.
Okay.
Why not just provide, let's say, Facebook accounts or something that you can actually buy because people are real?
I'm going to relay them to my product. So point is you really have to understand the product that you work on. That's the point. Now, so when we were approached with the thing that we were supposed to work on, I know it looks like our face is like it's I know it's pink. It's on purpose pink. We usually use our blue shade of blue. When we were building, so when we got approached, or I as a team lead got approached with the product owner back then, it was like I don't know, like any regular Thursday, whatever, and he said, hey, let's talk about what we're gonna do next sprint, or what I want us to do next sprint. So I was like, okay. He said in the room, I can do this room here, and he said, hey, look at this, I want to, because the feedback is super, the sellers for feedback is super important. We want to have it on mobile apps. And it was like, okay, yeah, it totally makes sense, right? Because it totally makes sense because we now understand that it's super important for sellers. It's super important for us because it builds trust. So we understand now why this is valuable, right? And the first thing I thought was, oh shit, this is all, there's a huge technical debt inside this thing. It's been built like years ago. We never like iterated on it, as you can see. Like we have crap stuff like the numbers and stuff. Like it's been like forgotten, but it's full of technical debt. So my alarms in my head are going like, oh, okay. So it means that we need. I know that this is important, so I'm going to be pushed to build this. I'm going to be the product owner is really not going to want to invest time into this thing. but they know that it's crap. And what's even worse is if we build it on a mobile app and we attach the crap we have to a mobile app via an API, has anybody ever tried to change an API, evolve an API? And has anybody ever tried to detach a mobile app to a different API? Like, I don't think that ever happened, to be honest. There might be myths about it, probably somebody with superpower, whatever. It's impossible. The problem is that once you push out the code to the mobile client, the mobile client actually is in the hands of the consumer. The client is controlled by the consumer. You're never going to make them. You can never force them to upgrade. Like, we are pretty, as a company, we have like a very quick. I think that our users are very quick to upgrade. Maybe not. I'm not sure. Relatively, but and the long tail is probably very long of the users in the previous versions. But the point is, the majority of our users are like they do upgrade quickly. And I said, okay, like, hold on, do we have this, like, he presented this to me, this design that he worked on with our UX designers and all that stuff, and it was cool, and it made sense. You have an order, and you want to leave a feedback, you click on it, and then you can see these variations where you can put positive or neutral or negative feedback, and it totally makes sense, right? But I'm like, wow, it's like so much crap. So how are we gonna do it? And then the second takeaway is that you have to know the value of what you're building, so then you can responsibly bargain with later. If you know what your product needs, you know how big the carrot is, you know how big the reward is out of it, so you can say, okay, I as a leader or I as a team lead or whatever, a manager, or an architect, I know that I have such a nice bag of money, and I can actually make my product owner be like, you can't have it. Because we have to slash technical debt, because we're never gonna evolve later. So what we did, I was like, okay, so I'm gonna I walked out of the room, I'm sitting on the screen, on my desk, and I'm like, oh my God, this is pretty bad. So I open the code, try to look at the code, and it's like 5 years old code, and it's like there's like a couple of multi methods, and it's like I see Alex there, and he's laughing, he worked together, and it was like there's stuff that shouldn't be the backend, there's validation that shouldn't be there. It's a module, it's weird, it's very bad. So I'm like, okay, what can we do, right? And this is all before. So keep in mind, this is all before I've said anything to my product owner. I'm like, okay, we'll evaluate with the team. Let's see. And I'm like, okay, we have to know what's there. Like, we have a nice bag of money that we have a nice carrot. But how are we gonna get the freedom? Like, how are we ever going to get the freedom? How are we ever gonna make everything clean to be able to expose it to the mobile app? It's super hard, right? So okay, we have to know what's up. We have to make a blueprint of the system. We have to know how bad is it, like, right? We have to know how damaged everything is before we can actually make a plan of like to go forward with fixing it. And we actually went in a room, the 3 or 4 people of us, and we said, okay, let's figure it out. So we sat down and we said, let's make a map. Let's put everything on the whiteboard. Let's dump everything we can find about this thing. And to make a map, to make a blueprint, there's, in my opinion, or what my experience has shown multiple times so far, is you actually have to go use the features. It's like that simple. Like, you really have to go and we had to really go and try to put feedback and bad feedback and validations and this and that, and try it on staging 10,000 times, not 10,000, 10 times, and see what's there, right? And we have to write them down. So we write them down. We go in a meeting room. We have this, and WeWork has this nice crazy room, we call it. It has like 3 walls of whiteboard, basically, top to bottom, and we just dump stuff there. Git grab is your friend. I mean, like, it's super it's super crappy advice, but it's really your friend. It's like grabbing, knowing how to find yourself through a code base, knowing what are the methods that kick into play when you leave feedback or leave a reply on feedback, what are the classes, the modules that are there, what are the views and this and that. It's like super important, and that's how you find it. Yeah, sure. I'm a Vim user, so I like grabbing. If you use something more fancy, go for it. But you have to know what are the bricks that make the wall. The third step is do that. Make the list. Put it somewhere. Doesn't have to mean much. It can be anything, but it's a concept. It's a concept that your brain is going to know that's there. And the next thing is actually drawing something and trying to connect everything. And this is what it looked like. The first version of our mind map looked like that. And it's like the crappiest mind map ever, but it was the most useful thing we did. We knew everything that was there. So another takeaway I want you to have is get all the concepts out that you can find through usage or through grabbing through your source code, put them on a map, connect the concepts that are there, and then repeat it. Simplify it and repeat it. So this is what you saw on the right-hand side. This is what it looks like. I draw it like super quickly in slides. And it's actually like a one-to-one presentation of what was there on the wall, so I didn't remove anything. And the idea is, so we have CS tools, which is a concept, customer support tools. We have an old admin, which is something like a back office. We have finance, which is a thing, a concept, finance. We have Domino, which is a platform that we use, whatever. We have search, which is a concept. It can be also an app. You have a URL on this side. So the idea is that you put anything and everything that you can find, so you know it's a thing that you have to do something about, or not do something about. But even not making an action is still an action when it comes to technical debt, right? And so this is what we found, and it's super easy. Why maps work is that because humans are visual. Like when you look at things and you try to connect them, and when you see hotspots, you know there's something. Humans are very visual, so like this, it really works. And we've tried it multiple times and it really works. So, and we're looking at, this is actually, there's some greeny things here. I think this is green, but whatever. This is super red, and these are, so I know, so why is this a little bit red? Why it's pinkish? Because this is the page that we saw, like a super valuable page for the sellers. So sellers really use this page, it's super important for them. Old API, because it's old API, because that's where the dragon is. Or maybe it's not the dragon, maybe it's a lion. Because it's probably, the lion is probably here. Or the dragon is probably here, because it's super red. But you know, okay, these are green. I don't know, it's hard to see with the projector, but these are green. Why? I'll explain why later, but it briefly said they're internal tools, so you can break them. Because you can manage expectations of people, right?
I don't need for them in mobile application, right?
Sorry?
I need for these areas or apps for the mobile, right?
You don't? But the problem is that the technical debt that's under the hood is going to haunt you all the way to the mobile app. That's why. If something is misdesigned, it's going to haunt you all the way outside of it. So you need to really go down, see what's in the dragon layer, map everything, so at least you know. It doesn't have to be that bad, right? Sometimes it's not that bad. So you have to identify the good, the bad, the low-hanging fruit, and the pain points. What you can skip, what you can circumvent, what you really have to go head first in, right? So, okay, so once we had this map of things and we looked into each one of these and we identified what they mean for us and where the hotspots are and what's easy and what's hard, we had to work on some sort of a technical strategy. So we say, okay, where are we now and where we want to go, where we want to land? What kind of a mess do we want to leave behind us? We should be better than the people that built the stuff before us, right? So the idea is where we are. We have outdated monolith, convoluted logic, we had coupling, and we had multiple plus 100 lines of methods. And some might say 100 lines is not too bad. It's pretty bad. Where we want to go, so as Svetlana already said, we use microservices, so we wanted to like rip it out of the monolith, move it, because the monolith is very old, so we want to move it to like a microservice that we can monitor easily. Some guys call it monitoring. that we can log easily, that we can maintain more easily, that we have modern tools, better Ruby, better Rails, all the Rubocops and the booklets and everything, right? And that's where we want to go. We want to have clean interfaces and clean APIs. That's where we wanted to go. Once we have that, once we know what is the desired road forward, then it means, okay, everything that we found on that map, actually, we need to put it in some of these buckets. So what must stay, what can be removed from all the bad stuff, and what can be simplified and then moved out for us. So the idea is, okay, feedback scores super important, have to stay. We saw there were like super coupling, it was red here on the mind map. We cannot touch that thing, it has to stay somewhere. Seller's feedback pages, super important, we have to see that, right? People use the seller's feedback pages, right? We have that, it has to stay. Trustpilot integration, we saw that there's something that it's a third party that we use so people can rate us. So that's how we build also trust for the brand. Legacy API has to stay. We have mobile apps that are coupled that we haven't migrated yet because they're super coupled. It's very hard. So that's why we wanted to avoid the same thing with these new screens. Okay, so what can we remove? Buyer reviews page. There was some page that didn't make any sense. We had 5 hits a week, whatever. Nobody cared about the page, nobody knew about the page. I asked about the page, they were like, I don't know. Pending feedback requests, there's like a thing there, we were scheduling some jobs that were supposed to be sent, and it was a convoluted logic. Bloated ending pages, we'll see the ending pages later. There was like super bad. Some integrations from previous versions of KTWiki before it was pivoted to an auction house. There's old tables. Then we said, okay, what can be simplified? We saw there was like the modeling was super bad. Okay, let's simplify it before we move it out, because we cannot move the same database modeling from an old monolith to a new microservice. Like we have to simplify, we have to make it nicer. Otherwise, it's the same. It's just in a different place, right? We had the calculation that actually got the 99 point whatever thing, right? Scores calculation. That could be simplified. We simplified it. We saw so many email templates like spread around, and we'll see later how we also fucked up one thing with emails. We had to simplify it, so we had to move them out into a CMS that actually is used to manage templates for emails, right? And then, okay, what's new? So if you want to go to a microservice, there's going to be new stuff, right? So there's going to be some REST API, there's going to be some data migration involved, which is always hard. There's going to be providing and replying feedback. There's going to be the mobile app, the actual screen that we saw initially. That was the carrot, right? That was like super important, and then integration to CS tools. And all of these things are actually, they look like a bit like boring, and they look very bloated, and there's like too much. Like it looks like too much. Like I spent too much time talking, but actually all of that can be done in 2 sessions by 2 hours from 3 people. It's not like that hard. Of course, it depends on the code base, right? But then you have to adapt for it. If your PO says, come on, you still haven't produced like an estimate or a breakdown or anything about this thing, you can say, okay, it's very bloated, let's push it for next sprint, right? There's always that, because you know that they have a nice, you still have that bag, remember? The big carrot. So once we had all of that, I had to, as a team lead, I had to go back to my product owner and say, hey man, this thing that you think we have, that we're going to have to like just expose to the mobile app, it's not going to take a week. It's going to be more like 3 or 4 weeks. And you were always expecting like, what, right? This didn't happen to me. But why? Because first, the product owner is like super good, and he left actually KTWiki while we're doing these things. So it wasn't my fault. But I really love the guy. But he was like super nice. He's super nice. But if this ever happens to you, you have to remember one thing, and this is like super important. Product owners or product managers, they own the why we're doing something, the money, remember, the bag of coins, that's the why, not the how. The engineers own the how, because you maintain it, you scale it, you evolve it, you build it. You own the how. You don't know anything. You don't own anything else. And they own only the why. That's super important. So now we were like, okay, we actually we went back and forth with the PO before, and he left. He said, okay, guys, because we built like a lot of trust over the years. He knew that we are gonna deliver what we promise. And he said, okay, I do trust you. I mean, he wasn't even in the plane anymore because he was already on the way out. But we said, okay, so what do we have to do? What people we have to reach out to be able to move this forward? Because it's a big thing, right? It's a big thing to migrate all these things, to clean this up, this whole mess, to add tests, to migrate the data and this and that, and all of the various things that we saw that are connected to each other. It's gonna have impact. And we have to do that. And it's a fancy word. It's managing stakeholders, in my opinion, is a very fancy word for you're gonna do something to the tools that some people use every day. And they're going to ask questions, and you have to manage that. So stakeholders, it's people, it's other people. Your users can be stakeholders, right? So the idea is that users, and also you have internal stakeholders, right? You have your PO as a stakeholder, which represents the users anyway, right? You have somebody in finance maybe is using these tools. You read the feedback. We know that we had the CS agents that actually moderated the feedback. So all of these things, they had to be managed, right? So we said, okay, we saw that the moderating tools were like super old. They were like super legacy. They were like they looked really bad. The code behind them was really bad. The same code was running the front end. The front end, so that means that where people put in the feedback, and it was the same code was running the admin pages. And the problem was that there were different rules for the moderators, obviously because they're moderators, but there's no like can or something. There's no permission system or anything. It was like just ifs and else's and ifs and else's until infinity. So point is, we had to do these things, right? And we said, okay, so this is outdated. And how many people, what's the impact? So what would happen if we don't do it right away? Let's say we shut this thing down, right? So we can make the migration easier for us. Let's shut it down and see what's gonna happen, right? And we actually saw, and we found out that it was used like 5 people in this company. There were 5 people that moderated feedback in the company. 5 people are easy to manage. We can use that to our advantage. We can say, okay, we're gonna do the moderation for you for however long we're gonna do this migration, 3 weeks, we're gonna do the moderation for you so we can gain this benefit of having this thing later on, something very modern that's gonna save us lots of time in the future, right? It's gonna be much more pleasant to work with. So this is an actual email me sending to the users. I've blacked out the names, but I'm sending them these people that use it. I'm telling them, hey, this page that you're using is gonna be down for a week. If anything happens, we'll take care of it. If you have CS tickets that come in and say, hey, you need to moderate this feedback, somebody left personal information in the feedback, or like somebody's cursing and this and that, bad language, like policy breakage basically, we'll manage that for you. We'll go in the database and manually update it for you in these 7 days. So idea, the whole takeaway here is some stakeholders are very easy to manage. So you need to use that to your advantage. This is not a hardcore technical thing, right? It's not, oh, we're gonna like use this super cool technology that's gonna help us. Like it's super simple. Find these users that are not gonna care that much, because if we say, for example, the inverse would be, let's take down the page where the seller sees their feedback, and we're gonna focus on migrating the tools. Then the sellers will be on our ass, on the phone all the time, like, where's my page? People want to see my feedback. They want to see I'm a top seller, right? So those are very hard to manage, but these people, internal people, are super easy to manage. So we said, okay, we're gonna make a room. We're gonna paint this way ahead. We're gonna first move we're gonna move to a microservice, gonna do these primary features, and we're gonna left for later the secondary features. So basically the secondary features came a week later, so it's not like too long. And we said, okay, while we're moving it, let's also add the telemetry. Somebody asked about it, and the logging. So it's basically our KPIs. It's where we're talking about KPIs. It's a metric. It's nothing fancy. It's what kind of actions are happening. So for example, if somebody leaves a feedback, that's a metric we want to know, right? That's not technical. That's purely product. If somebody leaves feedback, people leave feedback. We want to know. If somebody replies, we want to know. We have dashboards. We can measure that. That's very important. We also have logging. Okay, so I know somebody leaves feedback. I want to log the information somewhere in, so we can retrieve it later for debugging purposes, for any purposes, right? From the logging, I can build dashboards. I can build technical dashboards. I can build with the telemetry. I can build product dashboards. That's somebody I think asked about it before. Then we said, okay, it's a very simple thing. You have two major actions. Somebody leaves feedback, provides feedback, somebody replies to feedback. So we said, okay, let's try to build two services that actually are doing exactly that and map that to a test, and you're done forever and ever. That's how as a buyer leaves the feedback. If you open the file, I should put the file name. If you open the file, you're gonna see 15 lines of code, all the telemetry. You can see there what things are triggered. You can see what things are saved. It's super simple. And then also in the spec file in the test, you can actually read its architecture. You can read what the spec is. Like you can say, okay, this is what it means for the product when somebody leaves feedback, and it's like a spec. And then migrating data is always like a tricky thing, right? So what we said is, okay. So we said, okay, let's understand the data that we're actually working with. And that's super important. Always when you have to get some slips and data and move it to somewhere else, to another storage, so somebody reads from it, you have to really understand the nature of it. For us, it's super simple. Because we identified that data, after 10 days, feedbacks are locked. So that means that if we break something, it's going to be only for the data that's active for the last 10 days. And that leaves us in such a nice position, because we can proactively, when we already had the microservice running with the database and the good modeling, we actually wrote scripts that actually we proactively started moving the data. So all the data that was just readable, not editable, was already moved. So for us, when we had to flip switches, instead of reading to them from a monolith, go read from a microservice, for us it was super simple. It was only about these 10 days of data, or 7 days of data, I'm not sure. So that's what I wanted to, that's one of the takeaways here. It's like strive for the coverage, encapsulate and test the core functionalities, and then understand the nature of the data before you actually migrate the data. So now we said, okay, we have all of the passive data is migrated. The modeling is clean, everything is tested, is up and running, it's deployed, preemptively it's deployed in production already, we're all ready, right? So how are we going to do a rollout, right? Because rolling out to new apps, that's one thing we've learned here, is always a balance of the complexity of the deployment strategy and the risk you want to bear when you deploy it. What does that mean? It means that if your deployment strategy is super gradual and super safe, so you can stop anyway and say something went wrong, but my users are not seeing anything, everything is fine, I can then roll back safely. In those cases, it's going to be much more complicated to actually pull it off. From code perspective, from operations perspective, from data consistency perspective, it's going to be much more complicated, but it's going to be very safe for the users. So that's the risk and the balance. What we usually have found throughout these years, 2.5, 2 years, whatever, we use feature flags. So what we do is we say, okay, we're going to strategically place flags all across the code base where we're actually writing and reading. So in a switch of a flag, I can tell the page, don't read, don't read from the monolith now, go read to the microservice. I can say, don't write to the monolith, go right to the microservice with switches. So it's like literally like a click of a button. We just tell them, okay, read there, right there. And we can have 5 or whatever we had switches. One we had for the landing pages, for example, that we enabled read before. So, but it also allowed us to just unclick it, and then it would work. The new pages would work.
And it's much faster than deploy.
Yeah, exactly, because you basically arm, you deploy everything, you arm all the apps, they're armed and ready to fire, and you click, and they start. And slowly, you try to move functionality from one monolith to microservice. That's how we do it. And then monitoring is super important, but like Vadim said, we have Honey Badger, we use New Relic, we have Prometheus alerts. We can see all these things. We have alerting going on, and it's super easy for us to notice if something is really going bad. And then for us it's also easy to stop it from going back, because we can just flip the switch again, and it's still going to go to the old app. It's still, so if the front end doesn't respond to the new data structures, for example, if we have a bug somewhere, if we're going to have a couple of users affected, but then we can flip the switch again, and it's going to go back to the old stuff. So it's going to still work. And then communications is super important, and you'll see later why. I think it's in the coming slides now. It's everybody that's running your services, they have to know that you're actually doing something important. If you're like trying to put traffic to something new, to a new node that was not running before, or a new app that wasn't running before in production, they have to know. And it's super easy. It's super easy because these people are there to help you out to run your apps, right? That's how we do it. That's how we think about it. So main takeaways are like pick your deployment strategy, make it very easy to spot these issues, and then communicate clearly and often with the rest of the organization so everybody knows you're on point. And now everybody's probably, well, not everybody, but probably some of you are thinking that what happens if you miss the thing, which actually happened to us. Because, as I said, super coupled, super hard. It was a big technical migration. But what happens? So what happened to us is, so actually the rollout went like super good. It was. I was away. I was away, right?
Yeah, you were.
I was away, and I was reading Slack. I was on my phone. I was like, I was somewhere else. I don't remember why. And I was reading on my Slack how things are going. And the team was actually doing it, and everything went fine. I think we had to stop writing feedbacks for just an hour, because we had problems with the migration of the data of those 10 days. That's editable data, but it was an impact of 1 hour for a very, very small subset of users. So the impact was super small. And then everything went fine. And then I came back, everything was cool. We're starting to remove all the bad stuff, the old monolith things. We're like, oh, it's super nice, like we're removing code that's old, that's not tested, and this and that. And I get this on Slack. It's like, I got an email from Celery, he doesn't receive any notifications if somebody has left a feedback. I'm like, that's an email from feedback. We migrated that, right? And then I turned to my next to me, since a member of my team, Natalia, she's not here today. And I'm like, hey, did we migrate this? And she's like, I think so. Because obviously there are like many emails going out, right? So we did migrate many emails for feedback, but I'm like, okay, let's check. So I go to the diff in the pull request that actually had all the functionality that was sending this email and other stuff, and it looked like this. This is the diff. This is only one method by the way. And I'm like, yeah, it says provide feedback. And that's how it looked. This is what we didn't want to go out to the surface. This is just one method. There's many. And then we say, okay, I see like, there's like, where was it? There's user mailer, this and that, and then I'm like, huh? What is that? And basically, before, what happened? Come on. Before there is some logic that checks if the email is provided or updated. and that we forgot. And these emails were not sent. Still, the good part was that it was just emails. So we actually migrated all the hard stuff. We forgot one email, and they actually migrated in 15 minutes. It was like, yeah. We migrated email, it was the fix was rolled out, everything went fine. This is a second thing that happened. Vadim? So as we have, this is a snippet from Slack. This is our operations channel. We have operations channel, anything that happens, like anything that's operational, we post information there. If there's a problem, there's a bug, this and that, we actually, somebody comes in and announces that there's something that's going on in the operations channel in Slack. So we were like, fuck yeah, the microservice is working well, blah, 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 days later or weeks later, we were like, okay, let's remove stuff. And the orders table, it's millions of rows. It's like super big, the orders table. It has all the orders inside. And we said, okay, all the feedback was attached, instead of being to a separate table, it was attached to the same table that had all orders. So we're like, okay, let's drop columns now, because we're not reading this. It's fine. I mean, you can drop columns, and then like we work with Vadim, like Natalia that's posting the message, she worked with Vadim for days, like to remove 6 fucking columns. Like come on, right? So, in checkmark, it's ops people. Ops people leave the checkmark always. So they're like, it's like a kind of like a some sort of convention by now it has become. This is the rest is like, fuck yeah, we're removing stuff from the monolith. Like, what? So, we sit here, this floor, Vadim sits downstairs in that floor. Natalia went downstairs before I know to roll out. So I'm like, okay, everything's gonna be fine. She with Vadim, he's like super, like, knows everything, he's super good, nothing's gonna go wrong. I'm like, I read this message and I'm like, fuck. So I run downstairs, I'm like, what's going on? And Vadim is like, everything is fine. Shit. Bullshit. He didn't know what's gonna hit us. So Vladimir, he's the lead of the ops department of all the DevOps folks. He's like, I suggest to deploy the Word migration ASAP because something's bad gonna happen. He's like, I'm like, how bad is it? He's like, we're okay.
That moment we really were okay.
We're okay. We're okay. So we're like, the database is slowing down, something's going on. We have another ops, Dimitri, he works in the office. He's also posting like, something's going on, like we have some errors in other applications, what's going on? And he's like, and I'm like, we run it. Bullshit, we didn't have it. We didn't have it, so we started typing. We started writing the migration to back this thing, but there's no time. Like we have, at a certain moment, we had 15 million tables scanned in 1 minute or something on that table. Because what happened was, when we were dropping the columns, we dropped an index that was still active. Shit hit the fan, basically. It's like it's a plane that's crashing down. There's no way back. And like that's what I wanted to say is that stuff like this is going to happen. It happens to us. People that deploy hundreds of days to production, shit's going to hit the fan sometimes, but it's going to be okay, right? Because we have people that work on it, that are knowledgeable, that have our back. This was the impact. For 27 minutes, this is excerpt from postmortem. I wrote it after Natalia. It's 27 minutes, we had service unavailability. We have 11.3K users affected. Because we dropped 7 columns on a table that's not being read anyway. I mean, columns that are not being read anyway, right? So, when you do migrations, things are gonna go bad. When you try to clean up stuff, things are gonna go bad. But what's most important is we have to own up. We have to learn from it. And what we've done internally in Katowiki is that every time we write a postmortem, something goes bad, we have to have a follow-up action. We have to know, okay, this is what's going to happen after. this is how we're going to follow up. For us, it means that we are going to have to go. We have like a small guide of what are the steps to remove columns from like this kind of tables that are super big. And for us, that meant okay. When you go to remove index, please check it's not being used. But no, like really, please check it's not being used. And that's basically it. We have to proceed and learn from it. But eventually, after 3 weeks, after some technical migration, and we had the feedback out, it was working nicely. It was a new microservice. It had all the nice tools, all the observability, all the monitoring, all the telemetry, all the tests and everything. And it's super easy to work with. And then later on, if you want to move it somewhere else, it's going to be pretty easy to move it. And yeah, of course, we built the feature and it was super nice. Actually, users loved it because we do measure things and we know that people really, really started using the feature. That's it. Thank you.